Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. I apologize for not having as many videos this week. I've had a lot of work, and Monday through yesterday morning, we also had the air conditioning broken in our building at where I work and film these videos. And while it wasn't the 40 Celsius you had over in England, it wasn't that far off, 36 to 38. So it was very hot in here, and I could not stand around and stay here for too long. So I should be getting back to them, and especially if some more news starts to come out soon, and be putting these out on a more daily basis throughout the week once again. But I do have some things to share. I have an entirely exclusive piece of information that I'll start with here in looking at the forward situation. I have been told from a very good source around Facundo Pellistri that he and his camp are under the impression as of right now that he will not be considered for a significant role this upcoming season at Manchester United. That's what they understand at the moment. That's how they feel at the moment. That's where they're at the moment. He specifically wants to be in the starting 11 for Uruguay at the World Cup and needs to play. That's his perspective and his view on it. He played for the Uruguay national team a few times over the last season, did very well, and I think wants to earn his place in that starting side, but he does need to play. He had a really bad second half loan where he wasn't getting any minutes and doesn't want to be in a situation where he just cannot play at Manchester United, and apparently he's not really being given or won't be given any assurances of a significant role or chance this year at Manchester United. So, unfortunately, the player and his camp are disappointed with this. They are not happy with it. He really does want to make it at Manchester United, but at the same time, he cannot keep going on like this. So right now, they're currently on the lookout for the best option. Nothing is off the table as it stands in terms of a move, in terms of a loan or permanent, but nothing's been decided yet, and there isn't a club that he's likely to join as of yet. So that's the situation with Facundo Pellistri, and personally, I'm a little disappointed by it when you consider all of our attacking options, and I'm going to run through all of them because I have news on. Not too specific. I wish I could be more specific, but I have news on a lot of what's happening with the attackers and their situation, especially the young players. And, with the limited options that we have, I do wish he would get more of a look, and I think he's been pretty impressive every time he plays in the preseason. I think he's done well. I understand he's also small. I understand he's undersized. I also understand that he may not be ready for the level of play at Manchester United, but, it hasn't been great with a lot of these young players. And I think Ten Hag will work on a few. I just wish personally it was Pellistri. I think he would deserve the position, and I think he would provide something for us. But at the moment, their understanding of him and the people around him is that he's not really in consideration for a significant role this season. That doesn't mean starting, but just that he's not really going to play much. So they don't believe he's going to play much, so he's looking for another option. Okay. As it stands, Ahmad is also looking likely for a loan. Options are being explored there. He's looked all right in preseason, but definitely, in my opinion, he could use a real solid loan. I think he's a couple years away. I've mentioned before, but physically, I don't see him being up to it yet. He's very limited in that regard. He has ability. He has a lot of skill, but you could see it in that Liverpool game. He just got bullied. He just gets knocked around by anyone bigger than him. And in a really physical Premier League game, I just don't see how he can make it as of yet. There's time. He's young. He's talented. That one, needs the loan, and I think they'll get another loan for him. They are looking. Hannibal Mejbri could also be loaned. It hasn't been 100% decided yet, but it is being looked at for options, and after preseason, they'll decide. I think that would also be best for him. Apparently, there are some options in the championship, or that have expressed some interest in loaning him to the championship. I believe some in France as well. I think it would be best for him, probably. I think he's one that would also suit for Malone because he needs to play outside the under-23s. He needs to play real first-team football. He can't really play the holding role at United, and we have so many eights. We've got Bruno, Eriksen, Van de Beek, Scott. Fred can play in that 8 position if we get a holding midfielder. So there's not a lot of time for him. There's not a lot of position for him in terms of the players that need minutes. So if he does stick around, you would figure it would be as more of a Jack Grealish playing on the wing as a creative player there. And if he were to play there with the limitations and options that we have, I would not be opposed to him sticking around. But I don't want him to stay and not play or be with the under-23s. He is a player who is really talented, who could be exceptional. And if we want him to make it at United, something has to happen with his career. He's going to have to take the step forward. He's going to have to move ahead. There has to be some progression. And so a good loan, especially a place like the Championship, very physical, very fast-paced, a lot of movement, a lot of everything, would be a really good preparation for potentially being a key player next season and replacing maybe one of those 8s as options that I mentioned. So I think that would be a good choice, but they are looking at loan options. However, again, has not been decided, whether or not he is going to leave at the moment or whether he will go out on loan at the moment. So not decided. They want to look at it at the end of preseason. Jimmy Garner and his team are at the present also not sure if he will go on loan or not. What I have heard is it sounds like one of him or Zidane Iqbal will go on loan and one has more of a chance to stay. But who has not been decided and where has not been decided, obviously with the Nottingham Forest complication, with Dean Henderson out on loan there already. I believe that they are still trying to and hoping to see him play some preseason games before deciding one way or another whether to loan Garner, whether to loan Iqbal, who's going to play where. If Frenkie de Jong doesn't arrive, it makes to me a lot of sense for Jimmy Garner to stay, and I think he should. I think Zidane Iqbal should go out. He's had a really nice preseason, but I think it would be a rush to have him try to play at Manchester United yet. And some good first-team minutes at a really good side, or, again, a championship side like Jimmy Garner's been at, would be very nice. But if Frenkie de Jong does arrive, I don't see much value in Jimmy Garner staying. Again, we have all those attacking 8 options. You have Fred and de Jong deep. I don't think he'd get enough minutes to sit on the bench, and that has been discussed before. In terms of other kind of outs, obviously, as I said, Bailly, Telles, Tuanzebe, Jones, they're looking at these options. Wan-Bissaka, it's hard to find buyers at the moment. I think, again, when the team returns from Australia, you'll see potentially some of those actually starting to move and get going. So, the players will start saying, hey, look, if I'm not going to be in the plans, I want to go. But those outs, I think you're going to see most after the season has started, after not playing and all of that, and they start pushing a little bit and saying, yeah, let's get me a move. Where can I go and really pushing for it. But I know that their agents are looking. The club are absolutely still thinking with Ronaldo leaving as well. It doesn't matter what they say publicly. They know he's unhappy. They know he wants to go. I'm not saying that they want him to leave. But as I've said before, the public and private stance is a little bit different. Privately, they understand and think it could be better if he goes. They understand he wants to go. And they're preparing for it because they also understand they can't, if he ends up with an option, they're going to have to let him go. So there's not really a deadline, but they do expect him to join up when the squad returns with everyone else. So, you would expect him to be in training next week with Eriksen, with Martinez, with the rest of the team back in Europe. If he isn't, then it becomes very concerning and very strange at that point in time, or you could say he's probably gone, but they do expect him to join up there. He is still looking for other options out of United. They're definitely worried about Varane's fitness and expect to be managing it down to a limited number of games. That played a big role in spending on Martinez, bringing him in, because they cannot rely on Rafael Varane's fitness, and they know they have to manage it, to starting 20 to 30 games, and that's what they can get out of him, and that's fine. But they want to have all those options, and as you can see in preseason, Maguire and Lindelof are likely to be the ones that are playing until Martinez joins up. It's a bit of a tricky season. There's certainly going to be some testing and prodding and things with different players under Ten Hag. There's always a chance most of these players do end up staying, these young guys, but I don't think it would be great for so many of them to stay. There's a lot of them who need to take the next steps in their career to continue their development and get significant first-team minutes. Given the lack of attacking options, like I've said, I would like to see a few of the youngsters stay there, especially, again, in the attacking positions. I think two of them from, Garnacho, who's probably going to stay. I think his contract situation needs resolving and to fully be signed for them to feel happy. But Garnacho to stay. I would like Pellistri or Hannibal to stay as a forward. I would like one of them to. I think those are the two best young players that we have in the forward positions outside of Garnacho. So I'd like those two to stay, because with the limited names we have in attack, it'd be concerning. Martial, Rashford, Sancho, and then Elanga are the only established first-teamers. Of course, there's the possibility of Bruno, Eriksen, Van de Beek playing in one of the attacking positions, but I don't think it's enough. Having Garnacho and someone else to get minutes, especially in the Europa League or in cups, I think is important. It is obviously a drop-off from those front three, those main three names. I'm not saying they won't sign anyone. I'll get to that in a second. But you would like to see a few options. You really would like to see that they don't have to play 50, 60 games and get burnt out, because that's how you'll see Sancho get injured and struggle, Rashford get injured and struggle, Martial get injured and struggle. All of them have had some injuries over the last few years, and you don't want to see that. So if you can get them playing 40, you've got 60 games where you're going to be wanting to give it to hopefully a signing, Elanga, and then a couple of these youth guys, so that nobody's getting too overplayed. And of course, substitutions in the forward positions are usually where you want to see the most of them. United are scouring for names across the market in terms of the attack, as I mentioned, attached to Ronaldo. Not just about Ronaldo, because they want an attacker anyway. They are looking. You see the name Memphis Depay back out there. I'm honestly not sure if there's truth in that. However, United did explore it pretty heavily in 2020. Now, different manager, different management, everybody different. So I can't connect the dots and say they looked at it in 2020, so they'd explore it now. Back then, I think he was open to joining, but the costs were just too high. But I can't see how they do that. I don't see how they would look at it right now. There's no way they're going to do it prior to signing Frenkie de Jong. Think about that. There's no way they're going to assist Barcelona in clearing 250,000 wages off of their wage bill without a guarantee and having de Jong already done. So I think you could, for now, that seems incredibly unlikely for a lot of reasons. There are other names that they're looking at that I think you'll see coming out soon. It's not my information, but there are other attacking names they're looking for. And I've been trying to find out if there's any truth in certain names that have been given to me. I won't say it until I know or I get information from my side whether it is true, but there are other names, especially at striker, that they are looking at, young players. The other one is Antony. Obviously, he's still coming up as a name. They're still interested. He's still expensive. And I keep thinking I can say, oh yeah, you can roll that out due to cost. And yes, it seems very unlikely due to cost, but given the situation, perhaps it isn't. I still don't think it makes sense, especially when you see Sancho on the right doing so well. Antony's not a player who can play across the front line, so it doesn't really add to a fluid front line. It just means you move Sancho to the left when he's on, if he's playing. But I didn't expect United to go up and pay 55 plus 10 for Martinez. When they offered 50, I thought that's got to be the maximum. They'll get a deal done. When they didn't, I thought, will they pay 60, 65? And they did, which is kind of crazy. But again, because Erik ten Hag wanted the player so badly. So that leaves the door open for Antony as a possibility for sure. So we'll have to see what happens there and where that goes. Ten Hag has rejected, in terms of other signings and other areas, Erik ten Hag has rejected most suggestions for anyone for that deep mid position that have come from the club. He sees Fred closer to the role than nearly anyone that's been brought up and suggested to him outside of Frenkie de Jong. And as Andy Mitten said, and as I think I said in the last video, I don't think there's a plan B to Frenkie de Jong. I don't see that signing Yuri Tielemans or any names like that makes sense. I don't think that they'd be willing to. So it seems like it's Frenkie de Jong or bust in that position. Eriksen and Martinez, it's been reported, will return to training soon and will be joining the team likely this weekend or early next week when they return. That's good. They should get a couple games in. They will play, and the few weeks of preseason, which all in all, a couple games, a few weeks of preseason for them, some for Malaysia. It's the most preseason for 3 new signings that we've had since 2019, which is crazy. And current players, too, getting a full preseason and rest and things like that. So that's a huge, huge difference, and I'll talk about that again in a second. Some other news is Anthony Martial's very, very happy. Obviously, you can see it on the pitch. Ten Hag has managed him really, really well and restored his confidence. A couple of days ago, I was told, and I put some of this in an update in the Discord, but that he's really happy now. They sat down, had some conversations about a few things at the start of preseason, presented a few things to him, and he's really jumped at it and gone for it. I would at this point expect from what I hear that there's basically no chance of leaving, and that's connected to the Ronaldo situation, but also to how well he's doing, how much he fits it, and how happy he is. They were exploring options as recently as early June, but at this point it looks like he will be staying for the season for sure, which should be obvious based on preseason and how things are going. I do have a little update on Frenkie de Jong. I've been told that Barcelona offered him a compensation package that was too small and he rejected it. This was, I think, last week. It was apparently about 5 million over multiple years. So that's, again, things stalling. I think they tried to offer that before he got on the plane. And he said no and got on the plane. So Barcelona will have to increase it as they activate their lever, I think, today. Maybe it's finally time for this to occur, but frankly, I have no expectations for when. The next date that I'm looking for is July 31st now. This is when they find out about their salary cap and have to discuss registration. With all this new signings that they're making, that'll make it a very interesting time. They'll really find out, can we register all these people that we've been signing with these levers that we've activated or not? Or will they at that point be forced to pay Frenkie de Jong to get rid of him and to move him on? I'd hope it's resolved before that, but frankly, I'm not sure it will be with how this thing keeps dragging. As I've said before, I don't believe the backup links. I don't believe the names like Yuri Tielemans. I think it is Frenkie de Jong or bust, and otherwise, I think we will see Fred in that role most of the time. And finally, as I am optimistic and I've maintained this, I am looking forward more and more to how the next game is played in preseason. The implication I see is United going with that system and setup they did when they brought Van de Beek on. They were training certain starting players. I think someone tweeted this out, maybe Lowry or whatever, that they were using 11 outfielders, and the only duplicitous positions were Shaw and Malaysia, both there, but it looked like Fred, Bruno, Van de Beek. And so I think they're going to do this quite a lot. I think this is the system that Erik ten Hag wants to bring to break down teams and to really attack and suffocate the opponents. Playing Fred at the base of that 2-3-5 with 2 8s, I think it's all set up for Christian Eriksen to play next to Bruno up there, but to have Eriksen, Bruno, Van de Beek, and Scott all be able to kind of mix in there. You know what? I think this is how I think. The coaching is so good, it's such an improvement, that whether or not we sign Frenkie de Jong, this team has to be better than Ollie's 2021. How can it not be? How can it not improve when you've added Sancho, Varane, Martinez, Eriksen, Malaysia, some absolutely elite coaching? That's where I'm at. I have a lot of faith in the team. I cannot say this enough. I have a lot of faith in this team under Ten Hag right now. When you see Ten Hag coaching, when you see the setups, when you see the patterns in the final third, when you see real tactics in attack that players have not had coached in them for 5+ years, how can it not be better? Many of you watching, following, and all of that really, really wanted Ten Hag. Trust me, I remember. And I thought he was a great coach. And the more I see, the more I think he is a fantastic coach. And so here's the question. Is the squad better than 2021? Is he a better coach than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Are his assistants more experienced and better coaches than what we've had? Is the team better than 2021? Do they have a better schedule in terms of rest, in terms of a less condensed schedule? Remember, in 2021, they played basically 2 seasons back to back. If you answer all those questions, I think you have to say yes to all of those. More rest, more time, less condensed. Remember, United had the busiest schedule over an 18-month period in all of Europe. More rest, more time, less condensed schedule, much better coaching. I think the squad is much better because Matic was already falling off and Pogba was rarely around. So you've really lost them, and really the only other loss is Mason. Other than that, you've got Sancho, Varane, Eriksen, Malaysia, and Martinez, and probably at least one more in that time. So I would say yes, the team is better. Everything is better. So we should perform better. We aren't winning a title this season, okay? And we aren't in the Champions League. So if they do not get Frenkie de Jong, I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to panic. I still think they will. But if it's just Fred in that position as the main starter there, understand why Ten Hag would want to do it. Filling up on players he doesn't want is a bad idea. And it can poison the well for future signings for him and create a logjam like we've had next season. Leaving money for January and summer for the perfect player isn't the worst idea. If he cannot get exactly what he needs. I'm not taking United off the hook for that. I'm simply saying if it's his decision, I would understand why he'd do that. That doesn't mean I accept it. The money should be spent. He should get what he needs, especially a forward, regardless of the Frenkie de Jong situation. But remember, this isn't a next year project. It's a 2, 3, 4 year project. Panicking now and signing players we don't really need or want, like Yuri Tielemans, would hinder us in the future. So I'm happy if it is Frenkie de Jong or bust. I hope they get him. And at this point, if Ten Hag considers it to be that way, so be it. Even if it goes bust, it will be better than what we've seen. I'm positive of that. I believe we'll get top 4. I believe they can win the Europa League and maybe another trophy. That should be the aim for this season to have success. And there's a short season in January when the World Cup is over, so you never know who might be available at that time. Okay? So thank you for watching. I'll definitely put more of these out soon and hope to have more updates shortly. We'll have a game tomorrow. I'll do a review after that. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. I'll see you in the next video.